Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, February 27th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds today. Chance of showers this morning, chance of showers again this afternoon, high 54. Tonight and overnight, the clouds, they hang around, low 40. And then Friday, sun and clouds, high 48. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 43 and cloudy in Cedarhurst out on Long Island. It is 40 and cloudy in Hopewell over in New Jersey. And it's 44 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Gene Hackman and his wife found dead in their New Mexico home. Mayor Adams was a no-show at the first election event of the season. The plug could be pulled on congestion pricing in late March. Anti-Israel students stage a sit-in at Barnard College. And a New Jersey high school wrestler may have been cheated out of a championship season. We'll get into those stories. Let's start with legendary Hollywood actor Gene Hackman, found dead in his Santa Fe, New Mexico home alongside his wife, who's a classical pianist. We're getting this news initially from a Santa Fe newspaper, but police confirming this very early this morning. Santa Fe County Police discovered the body of the two-time Oscar winner, 95 years old, and his 63-year-old wife, along with their dog, all dead yesterday afternoon in their Santa Fe home. Now, the big important part of this story is that no foul play is suspected. The cause of death has not been announced. Carbon monoxide poisoning, maybe it's something along those lines. But again, no foul play. Santa Fe County Sheriff Adam Mendoza confirming the news in a statement very early this morning, not giving us a whole lot of details. I imagine as the day wears on, as they do some tests, we'll get more details of what took place here. Of course, this is huge. You know, Hackman, one of the most accomplished actors of all time. You can rattle off 100 movies. The French Connection, boy, I mean, how fantastic was he in that? Bonnie and Clyde. He won a ton of awards. The actor's prolific resume includes 2 Oscars, 3 Golden Globes, and back in 2003, he won one of the biggest awards you can win at the Oscars, the Cecil B. DeMille Award that was bestowed on him in 2003. But again, the details that we have, Gene Hackman, along with his wife, his dog, found dead in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home. That was late yesterday afternoon. The 95-year-old, along with his 63-year-old wife. They've been married for 33 years, along with their dog. No foul play suspected, but no cause of death has been announced by Santa Fe County Sheriff. Of course, as more details come in on what is just a surprising tragedy, we'll pass that on to you. 5:04 last night. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators taking over a building, staging a sit-in at Barnard College in Upper Manhattan. Flyers handed out by protesters stated that they would not leave unless Barnard reversed the expulsion of 2 students that were announced last week. Now, police sources say in January, the 2 students intruded on an Israel Studies class and distributed anti-Zionism flyers. We had told you about this story last month. They just barged into this class. So the NYPD deemed this a bias incident. Barnard College employee apparently was injured in this protest yesterday. It started about 4 o'clock at Millbank Hall. That's on 120th Street. It's right across the street, of course, from Columbia University. The protesters remained inside the building till about 11:30 last night. Their faces covered in keffiyeh, so they could not be made out. There was a protest against the protest which was, attended, but that was broken up as well. But some students on campus say, why is this stuff happening again?
We're all still bewildered. What's the administration doing? They should have had plans in place for situations like this and remove them, and this should not be tolerated anymore.
Yeah, but it happened last night. We reached out to the NYPD to see if they were called on campus. We did not get a return call to see if there was any arrests. So far, it seems that is not the case.
We saw what happened last spring when protesters were given the chance to negotiate, and nothing happened. And again, we ended up having to call in the NYPD.
Yeah, so there was apparently some negotiations that went on with those students and the campus, but they have not given us the details of that. 5:05. Mayor Adams was supposed to join this crowded field of candidates taking stage for a mayoral forum last night at Manhattan Community College, but just a couple hours before, he said, no, I'm not going to take part. But there were a lot of candidates who did show up. Of course, you had Brad Lander, Jessica Ramos, Zellner Myrie, Michael Blake, City Comptroller Scott Stringer, and Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, who is probably one of the more well-funded candidates in the mayoral race on the Democratic side. And he went on the attack on Mayor Adams and Cuomo right away when he spoke.
Mayor Adams, who raised your rent, or Governor Cuomo, who put you in Tier 6, I have the guts to ask for your endorsement in person.
The candidates, of course, all drying their fires, taking their fire at Mayor Adams and saving a little bit for Andrew Cuomo, too.
If you can't come stand before the people who make this city run and answer their questions, then you should not be running for mayor.
WABC News Time 5:09. Go back to this political forum, mayoral forum that took place in Manhattan Community College last night. The mayor, a no-show. Andrew Cuomo, of course, who has not officially jumped into the race, but likely will do so, did not show up. So all the candidates on stage, lesser-known names, were going after the two of them.
New York City is the greatest city in the world. And it is not because of the leadership, if you can call it that, coming out of City Hall today. It's not because of the failed leaders trying to make a comeback today. We don't need the leaders of the past to take us to the future. It is time for us to turn the page.
I wonder if this was just a brilliant move by Mayor Adams by not showing up, because I could go through the names of all the candidates, and I imagine a lot of you wouldn't know a lot of these people. So maybe he thought, why give oxygen to these candidates by appearing at this thing where they're just going to bash them?
If you can't come stand before the people who make this city run and answer their questions, then you should not be running for mayor.
Yeah, maybe it was a smart move for Mayor Adams not to show up last night. The Trump administration says New York City's congestion pricing plan must stop by March 21st. That's the deadline they've given. But Governor Hochul and the MTA, they're vowing to keep fighting to keep it in place. In fact, she was actually at an MTA board meeting yesterday detailing that visit she made to Washington, to the White House, to meet with the president last Saturday. She sat with him for about an hour, and I guess they were trying to hash out a deal on congestion pricing. Here she talks a little bit about what took place during that meeting.
I want something that encapsulizes in real simple terms, real nice pictures of what we're getting with congestion pricing. So I was able to show this to the president.
But she said there was a huge disconnect between New York and the White House during that meeting. She said, implying it didn't go very well.
I know there's a lot of power in that Oval Office, but I will put that power up against the power of 6 million pissed off commuters in New York City right there alone.
So she is insisting, the governor and the MTA, that the vast majority of New Yorkers are on board with congestion pricing, liking what they see so far. So she says she will fight to keep it in place.
It's not in our nature. It's not in our DNA. It's not anything we're capable of doing. And I had an interesting trip to the White House. I did my very best. The fight's not over, but...
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens come March 21st. That's the drop-dead date the White House has given for congestion pricing to go away. 5:11, down in Texas, this deadly outbreak now of measles grows larger by the day. Most of the people infected are kids. The individual that passed away from the measles is a child. And so you have doctors in Texas who are begging parents who have not inoculated their kids to roll up the sleeves of their kids and give them a shot.
There are lots of childhood rashes and fevers. This is not that. This is a much more serious illness.
Baylor infectious disease expert Dr. Peter Hotez says this is likely the first of many cases, and there could be others that pass away.
Measles is such a highly transmissible illness and is such a severe illness, particularly for those who are unvaccinated.
Now, the latest numbers from the state show there are at least 124 cases of the measles, but it's incredibly contagious, and those are just the reported cases, which suggests there's probably a whole lot more.
An unvaccinated person who acquires the measles virus, they have a 20% chance of requiring hospitalization, mostly because of respiratory illness.
Health and Human Services Secretary, the newly minted one, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., says he's been following the measles epidemic every day, but he says the number of cases, the hospitalizations, and now even that death aren't necessarily a cause for panic just yet.
It's not unusual. We have measles outbreaks every year.
The death confirmed in Texas, where that outbreak has been mainly among the unvaccinated, of course, has been big news in Texas for weeks and nationally for that matter. In fact, 7 other states, including New York and New Jersey, are reporting new measles cases. 513. A bipartisan effort now being made to ensure funding for 9/11 survivors and first responders continues.
New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was joined by Republican Andrew Garbarino and Democrat Dan Goldman to fix the World Trade Center health program. They say it will be forced to turn down 9/11 first responders and survivors because of a funding shortfall.
Well, all we can do is trust the actuaries who do the analysis and tell us how much it costs. And so that's what we've done. And it's $3 billion.
They're introducing a bipartisan bill that would ensure adequate funding until the program's expiration date in 2090. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:14. Going to see Cardinal Timothy Dolan a little bit later today at an event. I want to ask him about how Pope Francis is doing, because we keep getting all kinds of reports. What we do know, and what the Vatican has told us, is that he has pneumonia in both of his lungs, and that a kidney infection, or the beginnings of one, apparently is okay now. But there's all kinds of talk that maybe Francis is thinking about stepping down because he's too frail to continue on. That, as the Vatican says, he's been eating well and sat upright yesterday.
An update from the Holy See press office says that the mild kidney insufficiency that the Pope had experienced has subsided. The update said a CT scan and blood tests also showed improvement. The Vatican did point out, however, that despite the slight improvement, his prognosis remains guarded. I'm Mark Mayfield.
All right, in a moment, we're going to go down to Washington. We'll watch what took place during President Trump's first cabinet meeting of his second administration. But first, at 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday Eve, and good morning, Justin Ella.
Happy Friday Eve. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Dare I say this week is flying by.
Really?
No,
I
not
haven't
at all.
felt that way at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Just the complete opposite. My God.
Very slow, actually.
Let's start here.
Sometimes maybe just adding that extra hour onto my day makes it a little slower.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm sure it feels like a little bit more than that to you.
Yeah.
We'll start here in the NBA, Noam, at the Garden. Jalen Brunson had 34 and 7. Mikal Bridges scored 28 points, and the Knicks held off the Philadelphia 76ers 110-105. OG Anunoby had 16 points and 9 rebounds, and Josh Hart added 7 points, 17 rebounds, and 4 assists for the Knicks, who won for the 4th time in 6 games and 11th time in their last 15, playing without leading scorer and rebounder Karl Anthony Towns. Bridges took over from the outset by scoring 19 points in the first quarter on 8 of 10 shooting. Brunson then took over late by scoring 10 of New York's final 12 points. Up next for the Knicks, they'll be at Memphis tomorrow night in Brooklyn. The Nets lost 129-121 to the visiting OKC Thunder. Daron Sharp scored a career-high 25 points in his first start of the season for the Nets, adding 15 rebounds and 5 assists. Killian Hayes had a season-best 19 points, and Cam Johnson also scored 19. The Nets made a season-high 23 three-pointers on a franchise record 61 attempts. Coming up next for them, they'll host the Portland Trailblazers tomorrow night. Checking in on the collegiate hardwood in Indy, R.J. Lewis Jr. scored 24 points, and number 7 St. John's clinched a share of its first Big East regular season title in 33 years by beating Butler 76-70. Kadari Richmond had 13 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals for the Red Storm, who are now 25-4 overall, 16-2 in conference. The team set a school record for conference wins and secured the program's 6th Big East regular season championship. They can wrap zip up an outright league crown on Saturday with a victory over Seton Hall at MSG or a Creighton loss at Xavier. The only outright Big East regular season title for St. John's came in 1985 on the way to a Final Four appearance. In the NHL,
that might be the only local team that makes the tourney, right? I'm trying to think of anybody else that's playing ball like they are right now.
I can't think of one unless Seton Hall's going to make the tourney, but I don't think so.
I think they'd have to win the tourney.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there you go. I would imagine the Johnnies.
So let's get all on board.
We might as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. In the NHL, the Devils fell big time to the Avalanche. Final score 5-1 from Colorado. Coming up next for the Devs, they'll be at Utah come Saturday night. Looking ahead to local ice hockey action tonight, the Islanders will be in Boston to battle the Bruins. Puck drop there is scheduled for 7 p.m. That's your Sports Know. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. President Trump holding his first cabinet meeting of his second administration yesterday.
We're going to start getting to be at a point where we can think in terms of balancing budgets, believe it or not, something you haven't heard in many, many years, decades, actually.
He ticked off a list of priorities he's focused on, including, of course, the U.S. border, inflation, energy production.
In just over 1 month, illegal border crossings have plummeted by numbers that nobody's actually ever seen before. It's much more than 100%.
And the president pushing back against Democrats who say his cuts have gone too far and might hurt or impact Social Security and Medicare.
I've said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that question. Okay? This will not be read my lips. We're not going to touch it. Now, we are going to look for fraud.
And the president says the Environmental Protection Agency will fire 65% of its staff now.
During a cabinet meeting Wednesday, Trump said the new administrator of the EPA, Lee Zeldin, will be making major cuts for the agency very soon. A reduction that large would result in the loss of over 10,000 EPA employees. Officials from the EPA's biggest union say those cuts would be disastrous for the agency and would mean far less people available to respond to natural disasters. I'm Mark Mayfield.
You know, Elon Musk actually took part in this cabinet meeting yesterday. Of course, he doesn't have an official position in the president's cabinet, but he was there to talk about his efforts to cut government waste through Doge.
We wish to keep everyone who is doing a job that is essential and doing that job well.
And we're trying to learn more, of course, about this email that was sent out to federal employees where they had to list everything they had done the week before and then email it back to essentially an AI system, an artificial intelligence system that would go through all the emails, decide whose gig is worth keeping on, whose time to let go. So is that email still in place? Is still a deadline to have that email in?
If the job is not essential or they're not doing the job well, they obviously should not be on the public payroll.
Yeah. President also yesterday talking about these tariffs. He plans to issue 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada. It was set to go in effect maybe next week, but now it's been pushed up a little bit.
I was going to do it on April 1st, but I'm a little bit superstitious, so I made it April 2nd. The tariffs go on.
And Trump also says he's going to slap a 25% tariff on the European Union soon, claiming that the 27-country bloc has been formed to just screw the U.S.
25%, generally speaking, and that'll be on cars and all of the things. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president.
522, let's go to Ukraine. Ukraine's prime minister confirming that the U.S. and his country have reached this agreement on a rare earth mineral deal and that his government will authorize it and that President Zelensky will come to Washington tomorrow to sign off on the deal.
He says the U.S. has prepared a final version of the minerals agreement, which envisions the creation of a joint investment fund. And this is the key point. He says agreement is directly connected to security guarantees for Ukraine. This is the single number one priority for President Zelensky, for the government, and this is why Ukraine would agree.
President Trump says it's all about Ukraine paying back the U.S. for all the aid, the military aid we've given them during the 3-year-long war with Russia. In Israel and Hamas say they've reached some sort of an agreement on the next swap of Israeli hostages, Palestinian prisoners, at least the ones that are alive. Giles Gibson is in Tel Aviv, and he says that deal should keep what is a really fragile Gaza ceasefire from totally collapsing.
The bodies of 4 deceased Israeli hostages and 602 Palestinian prisoners, plus an additional group of prisoners, are expected to be exchanged by the end of Thursday. The deal brings to an end a tense standoff which lasted for several days.
Yeah, the first phase of the ceasefire deal is still scheduled to expire on Saturday, but the thought is they'll extend the first phase instead of going to the second phase, because the difficult part of the second phase is a withdrawal. Part of that would be a withdrawal of all Israeli troops from Gaza. Colombian police have arrested a man who allegedly was caught trying to smuggle cocaine under his toupee.
Police say the 40-year-old suspect was detained Monday at the Cartagena airport when he was caught trying to board a flight to Amsterdam with over 200 grams of cocaine packed in small bags beneath his toupee. Officials estimate the street value of the cocaine to be worth over $10,000. They say the suspect has a prior criminal record, which includes 2 drug trafficking convictions. I'm Michael Kastner.
WABC News Time 524. The FDA going to give the thumbs up now to a smartwatch safety feature.
On Wednesday, Google revealed that the agency cleared the loss of pulse detection on the Pixel Watch 3. The feature was announced last August and is currently available in 14 countries. The FDA's approval now paves the way for it to be available to the U.S. by the end of next month. The feature is designed to ask a watch user if they're okay if a pulse is not detected. If there's no response, the watch calls 911 and also gives the location of the user. I'm at Mattinson.
Let's go down to Florida. Republican Congressman Byron Donalds getting the endorsement from President Trump as he tosses his hat into the ring in the governor's race there. A political analyst, his name's Sean Foreman, expects other candidates to jump in, like Governor Ron DeSantis' wife, whose name is Casey.
She's going to run for this election. She's going to have to gear up and make that announcement pretty soon before Donalds gets all the momentum and all the attention and becomes a really strong front runner.
There's a lot of Democrats who are going to jump into this thing. I mean, none of them officially here. But party chair Nikki Fried, the Miami-Dade mayor Daniela Levine Cava, a state senator, his name is Jason Pizzo. They're all expected to run as Democrats.
Trump knows how to get the upper hand by putting that endorsement out early. And now the ball's in DeSantis' court. Is Casey going to run or not?
It sure seems like Casey DeSantis is going to run. The governor's been talking about her a lot lately.
Otherwise, why would Governor DeSantis be teasing her candidacy this week and throwing shade at Congressman Donalds unless they're really expecting Casey DeSantis to run?
Yeah, I think she will. 526, new and expecting moms are being urged now to be screened for depression and anxiety.
The American Heart Association now recommends hospitals and healthcare providers screen for depression and anxiety during and up to 1 year after a pregnancy. Doctors say psychological conditions during that time span are among the leading causes of maternal death in the U.S. Those conditions have also been linked to negative pregnancy outcomes and long-term heart problems. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, February 27th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Clouds today with a chance of showers this morning. The high going to be 54. Tonight and overnight, those clouds hang around low 40. And then Friday, sun and clouds, the high going to be 48. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 44 cloudy, Cedarhurst out on Long Island. It is 41 and cloudy in Hopewell over in central New Jersey. And it's 44 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start with what has been a breaking story for us all night long. Legendary Hollywood actor Gene Hackman found dead in his Santa Fe, New Mexico home alongside his wife and their dog. This, according, the initial reports were coming from a Santa Fe, New Mexico newspaper. But then we got confirmation very early this morning from the Santa Fe County Police. They told us they discovered the body of the two-time Oscar winner, who was 95 years old, and his 63-year-old wife. They had been married for 34 years, alongside their dog, dead in this Santa Fe home Wednesday afternoon. Now, the big part of the story, and the important part here, is no foul play is suspected, but they did not give us a cause of death. Now, that could easily be that they just don't know yet. carbon monoxide, something like that. We just don't know. The Santa Fe County Sheriff Adam Mendoza confirming the news in a statement. This was early this morning, saying that, yes, Gene Hackman, his wife, and their dog were found dead in their home. Of course, Hackman, one of the more accomplished actors of our time. I mean, he had not worked in a while. And in fact, you remember it was just a couple months ago, maybe, that picture of him walking the streets of Santa Fe got out there, and he looked like an old guy, because he is an old guy. He was 95 years old. So many great movies. And I know I'm going to miss some, and people will yell and scream at the radio. But of course, you have The French Connection, Bonnie and Clyde, Unforgiven, Under Fire. Let's see, what am I leaving out? Royal Tenenbaums, that more recently. Hoosiers, right, forgot about that. See, I know I was going to leave out a ton of movies. That's a great movie. Oh, my God. Birdcage, right? He was great in The Birdcage. He won 2 Oscars, 3 Golden Globes, and back in 2003, he got the biggest award you can get at the Oscars, the Cecil B. DeMille Lifetime Achievement Award. So sad to tell you again, the details we know. Gene Hackman, his wife, who had been married 34 years, along with their dog, found dead in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home. This was late yesterday afternoon. New Mexico police confirming it very early this morning. No foul play suspected, but they have not released the cause of death. WABC News Time 539. Let's go out to Long Island. Crazy story of what people will do to grab something off of your porch. These porch pirates have become incredibly sophisticated, at least some of them anyway. The DA out in Suffolk County, Ray Tierney, says they busted up this ring that was stealing cell phones with alarming precision, often knowing exactly what was inside the packages that were dropped off in front of homes. The criminals, we're now finding out, were tipped off by an inside source who provided them with information about where and when those deliveries of those phones would be made, so they could just go and essentially wait outside the home, grab the phone, and drive away.
In this instance, the criminal crews in Suffolk County would be tipped off. They would get the information from outside of the country. They would be given lists of where these deliveries were occurring.
Yeah, the DA, Tierney, telling us that the theft's ring extend beyond Suffolk County to New Jersey, other states as well. So the criminals employed these computer scripts to track FedEx shipments and other deliveries from an unnamed wireless provider. Apparently, they were paying off the employees at this wireless provider. They were bribing them to get the vital customer information, like details of who they were, names, tracking numbers, delivery addresses, so they could facilitate these thefts. And I think if they'd use that brain power for something good, they'd probably have a high-paying job as opposed to stealing phones. But in this case, no, they were stealing phones.
The criminal crews would know that these cell phones were going to be dropped off at a particular time at a particular location.
Yeah, so we saw these raids in the Bronx yesterday, and that was part of this larger bust as they take down these people who were stealing cell phones. In Suffolk County alone, they stole about 200 cell phones off of porches across the county. 5:41. While we're out in Suffolk County, I was watching this story on Eyewitness News last night on Channel 7 about a number of migrants who are here illegally who say since the Trump administration has begun, but maybe even before so, they are not getting paid for jobs that they're doing. Now, of course, they're here illegally. They're probably getting paid under the table. But some of these workers say they had done household work in people's homes, like a maid, or had done construction work. And then when they went to get paid or went to cash their checks, they bounced. And so they said, well, you know what? I know I'm here illegally, but I'm going to go to the authorities anyway. And they believe that their employers were thinking they would never go to the authorities.
She asked for specific things.
How much total does she owe you?
Close to $4,000.
$4,000?
Yes.
And all you got was a bounce check?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think there has to be something really wrong with you. If you knowingly employ somebody you know is here illegal, you're paying them under the table, and then you screw them because you think they're never going to go to the police. There's something wrong with you if you're doing that.
There is a lot of fear in the immigrant community right now. I mean, even if some people are documented in the household, some maybe aren't.
Now, by the way, if you think they're going to get away with it, they're not. Police in Southampton confirming that they are investigating the families who did not pay these migrants who are here illegally because they thought they could get away with it.
Right now we're working on a few cases, and I'd say to anybody who does make an agreement with somebody to have work done, pay the people if they do the work for you.
That's the head of the Southampton police who says, unfortunately, a lot of people will be afraid to come forward, even if they're not paid, because obviously they're going to be worried about being deported. Federal prosecutors say a Brooklyn man wired money to help ISIS.
Mansouri Manu Chekri was arrested Wednesday, charged with sending $70,000 to people overseas, including in Turkey, aimed at helping ISIS and ISIS-K. The FBI says Manu Chekri was living in Sheepshead Bay on a non-immigrant visa that had expired in 2016. Officials say they also found at least 2 jihadist videos and evidence he had possessed weapons. They say he sent a video of himself firing an assault rifle at a New Jersey shooting range with the message, "Thank God I am ready, brother." Manu Chekri's lawyer says he was sending financial support to orphans and widows. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Actress Michelle Trachtenberg found dead in a New York City apartment yesterday.
Trachtenberg, found unconscious at her Columbia Circle home and later declared dead, was just 39 years old. Born in Brooklyn, she'd been acting since she was 3 when she started appearing in commercials. Later, Nickelodeon's The Adventures of Pete and Pete, and her breakout film role alongside Rosie O'Donnell in Harriet the Spy.
Just been on a promotional tour for 2 weeks, and
For what movie?
just Harriet the Spy.
Oh, really? Who's in that with you?
Oh, I think maybe you.
As an adult, Trachtenberg stood out on TV in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and in Gossip Girl, also returning to the big screen in notable fashion for Eurotrip. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
In a moment, we're going to hear from New Yorkers who are all talking about whether Andrew Cuomo should jump into the race for mayor, which is likely he's going to do. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk and Justin Alec.
Thank you, Noam All-In. And we'll start here with the NBA at the Garden. Jalen Brunson had 34 and 7. Mikal Bridges scored 28. And the Knicks held off the Philadelphia 76ers 110 to 105. OG Anunoby had 16 points and 9 rebounds, and Josh Hart added 7 points, 17 rebounds, and 4 assists for the Knicks, who won for the 4th time in 6 games and 11th in their last 15. Playing without leading scorer and rebounder Karl Anthony Towns, Bridges took over from the outset by scoring 19 in the first quarter on 8 of 10 shooting. Brunson then took over late by scoring 10 of New York's final 12 points. Up next for the Knicks, they'll be at Memphis tomorrow night. In Brooklyn, the Nets lost 129 to 121 to the visiting OKC Thunder. Day'Ron Sharpe scored a career-high 25 points in his first start of the season for the Nets, adding 15 rebounds and 5 assists. The Nets made a season-high 23 three-pointers on a franchise record 61 attempts. Coming up next for them, they'll host the Portland Trailblazers tomorrow night. Checking in on the collegiate hardwood in Indy, R.J. Lewis Jr. scored 24 points, and number 7 St. John's clinched a share of its first Big East regular season title in 33 years by beating Butler 76-70. Kadari Richmond had 13.6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals for the Red Storm, who are 25-4 overall, 16-2 in conference, and set a school record for conference wins and secured the program's 6th Big East regular season championship. They can wrap up an outright league crown on Saturday with a victory over Seton Hall at MSG or a Creighton loss at Xavier. The only outright Big East regular season title for St. John's came in 1985 on the way to a Final Four appearance. And we'll get a quick check-in here on spring training baseball as well. The Mets yesterday lost 4-1 to the Marlins, a big RBI double by Pete Alonso, who's back in the orange and blue. And the Yanks shut out.
Did you just get a finger in your ear or up your nose or something?
It was actually right in my side.
Oh,
so
from
it was
Sid.
like, it was like one of those little, yeah, exactly, from a one Sid Rosenberg. He's going for my kidney, somewhere along those lines.
Right.
But I think I'm okay.
All
no.
right.
And as for your Yankees, they shut out the Cardinals 7-0. Bellinger, Goldschmidt, a couple of RBIs for the 2 newcomers. And Dominic Smith, man, this guy came over, signed a minor league deal with the Yankees, and he's basically hitting a home run every single day, and hopefully,
we'll see what he does during the regular season.
Exactly, we'll see what he does during the regular season. But you like stories like that in spring training, guys signing minor league deals,
sure,
and then being able to make the major league squad. So we'll be rooting for Dom Smith in pinstripes. There, that's your sports. I'm Justin Ellick on 77.
You'll be rooting for him, not me. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I was just going to wrap up, and you just stepped all over me. You just stepped all over my lockout.
Sorry.
I mean, it makes it sound unnatural. Don't you see that? Take it away, Noam.
All right.
Back to you.
WABC News Time 5. 549. There's yet another poll that shows Governor Cuomo just beating all the Democrats in the race for mayor. The latest one coming from Honan Strategy Group shows the former governor would just dominate the field of Democrats, of course, including Mayor Adams. So we asked people in Midtown, what do you think about Governor Cuomo jumping into the race, which is going to happen any moment now?
He had his run already. He didn't do a good job of it.
I was never a fan. Him coming back would be good for New York City.
I would welcome Cuomo back. I would definitely vote for him.
I would like to see him as mayor of the city because he's well-versed in all of the behind-the-scenes politics.
You know what's interesting is all the women, now this is a small sample, but all the women who spoke yesterday about Governor Cuomo getting back into the race all said he should. Now, that's amid all those sexual harassment accusations that chased him out of the governor's office 2 years ago. But this poll shows Cuomo has a 26-point lead, with 38% of respondents saying they would vote for him for mayor. The next candidate is at 12%, and you say, was that Mayor Adams? No, it's actually Queens Assembly member Zohran Mamdani, who's raised a lot of money. And then in third place is Mayor Adams with just 10% on this survey.
That's just the shock and wow factor.
That should definitely tell you a lot. He's not in the race. He has not said, I'm doing it, nothing. Everybody's like, we're voting for him. He's not even there. He might be written in.
New York people love Cuomo, and I'm more for it. He'll get my vote.
Yeah, so we asked them, he said, hey, Cuomo stepped down following the slew of sexual harassment allegations. Does that matter to you? Will that change your vote?
He shouldn't have been took down from the get-go.
That's definitely not a good thing. But I also feel like, to an extent, when they want to get rid of you, sometimes things pop up. And then once they get what they want, they kind of go by the wayside.
Yeah, so at least that small sample of women in Midtown are willing to forgive him for that. The sinkhole nightmare in Morris County that we've heard Joe talk about all morning is likely to get worse now that testing has revealed what could be 90 different voids under Route 80. So local drivers, of course, who've had to deal with this sinkhole nightmare says it takes about 4 times as long to get anywhere because of the detours.
Normally traffic is
about 15 minutes, and now it's about an hour.
It makes it very difficult for us to get to the stores around here.
Yeah, so crews have been out 24/7 to assess the highway after another sinkhole opened up early last month near exit 34 in Wharton. They're looking for century-old abandoned mine shafts that weren't filled in properly before I-80 was built on top of it, and they think that's some of the problem with these sinkholes, which is kind of crazy. While we're in New Jersey, let's head over to Oradell in Bergen County. Some parents there taking a stand against the Oradell Board of Education, which voted to cancel an appearance from an author. His name is Chad Sell. He writes children's books with some LGBT-related themes. Now, every year, the PTA there sponsors a reading event for kids within the district, and Chad Sell had been invited to attend. His book is called Cardboard Kingdom, but the board voted to cancel Sell's appearance, and when they did, lots of parents pushed back. So they showed up at this board meeting last night to convince the board to rethink what they did, and actually, in a rare moment, it worked. The board voted unanimously now to allow this author to become one of the featured authors at this event in Oradell.
I'm very happy that all the authors will be able to come and show the kids how to be creative and how to be open-minded, and I'm very excited to see what my son says about the authors coming to visit.
Sell's books are mainly for kids age 8 to 12. They display LGBTQ-related themes like a boy with a same-sex crush and a boy who dresses as a female sorceress. 5:53. Some families here in New York expressing real outrage over New York State prison conditions while corrections officers continue now what is an 11-day strike. The Legal Aid Society saying that they're hearing from inmates across the state.
Absolute terror from our clients and chaos. Hundreds of clients are reaching out to us to tell us they are not receiving food, that they're not receiving critical medical care, that they're locked in their cells, and that they're terrified.
So they're calling for an end to the illegal strike, saying the conditions are dehumanizing. Governor Hochul sent in about 3,500 members of the National Guard into these prisons across the state. But they say that's just a Band-Aid solution. Legal Aid says hundreds of inmates across the state say they're not receiving food, critical care, and that they've been locked in their cells.
It needs to end. There needs needs to be a restoration of staff at the facility to ensure that people are receiving the food, the medication, and the basic necessities that are currently being denied to them.
But the corrections officers say, no. First, you got to deal with the fact that we're doing a lot of overtime, not being treated well, and working in dangerous conditions, and say until that's dealt with, they're not going to go back on the job. A high school wrestling champion is not going to get a chance to ever wrestle again. At least it seems so, in what has been a really controversial story. One of the state's top competitors, his name is Anthony Knox Jr., has been disqualified from the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association for being involved in a brawl during a wrestling match last weekend. So the brawl occurred at a match in Collingswood. Knox, who was there to do battle with an opponent in a wrestling match, said all of a sudden he heard screams and yells coming from the crowd that was watching the wrestling match. And when he turned around, he said he realized that his father had been surrounded by a group of hostile fans. So he did what I would think a good kid would do. He ran in to go defend his father.
I saw my family being surrounded, and I've always lived by the motto that family's over everything.
A group of grown men were yelling obscenities at my wife, racial slurs at teammates of his that I have been coaching since they were 6 years old, and cursing at my son.
Now, Knox's father, I should point out, is a former MMA fighter, so they've probably taken on the wrong guy. They say the instigators shouting derogatory remarks at his family and the team. They asked the hecklers to stop, and that's when these fights broke out. His mom, Anthony's mom, was in the crowd as well.
As the day progressed, things got worse and worse, and nobody stepped in.
Yeah, so now the incident has led the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association to suspend Knox for leaving the bench. That's what they're going to get him for. Now, his lawyer says there was actually no designated bench for wrestlers when they finish matches, so they're going to fight on that charge.
They're saying he left the bench area and went into the crowd. Well, there's no bench area that they were. There was nothing here.
Yeah, so in the end, the executive director of the New Jersey Interscholastic Athletic Association sending us a statement saying that his disqualification will continue. And they do say they're fully aware of the consequences to the student athlete. He's a senior, and this disqualification effectively ends his high school career. This champion, who is likely to win the championship, will likely never wrestle again, at least as a high school athlete. 5:57, traffic, transit on the 7s. Here's Joe Nolan.
Terrible organization, the NJSIAA.
Yeah, well, how do you do that to
this? They've been awful. I mean, they're just awful. They've been that way for years and years.
Really?
And years and years and years.
You have to see this video, Joe, because this kid did the right thing. He's wrestling. He sees this brawl take place in the stands. He sees that his dad has been surrounded, and he runs in to go defend his dad. They should be saluting him, not disqualifying him.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of stories, personal stories about the NJSIAA that I don't even want to get into, but it was. They've been inept for a very, very, very long time. So.
That's too bad to ruin this kid's last chance at a championship. Awful.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.